even as recently as, 4 or 5 years ago, it was very, the perception of men's health was very based around aesthetics and kind of, I guess, manly stereotypes, machoism. But yeah, I guess we're kind of more gradually moving, well, not even gradually anymore, moving towards a mental health focus. And people are realizing that these pillars of health don't work in silo, they work together to create kind of a whole overall aspect of health.
100%. I think it's becoming a lot more holistic. It's not just about cholesterol, salt, all of these things. And it's not just about the outside, like Scotty said. We're thinking as men now more about the inside. We're thinking about the touchy-feelies a bit more. We're talking more, feeling more. And so I think men's health in 2022 is something that is much more of a whole package compared to what it used to be.
I think it's your generation that is sort of leading that. I mean, the work we do at Gotcha for Life is a lot with young people, but also talking to the dads of guys like you and the granddads of guys like you and saying, hey, you did a great job for what you knew at the time, and no criticism, but we're doing things differently now because we know stuff that you guys didn't know 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. Like medicine, health, all of these big ticket areas have moved so much in such a small space of time. And I think men are moving with that, which is such a positive thing to see. So as you say, things are much more acceptable and talked about these days compared to what they were even 20 years ago, which is just amazing to see.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that older generations seem to have embraced this change as well. I think probably this is where social media has been a great thing. There's more exposure to different ideas and different ways of thinking for not just our generation, but every generation. That access is right there, and we can see different ways of thinking and different ways of talking about our health.
I think that whole, that era of kind of sucking it up, tough it up, don't talk about it, look like you've got all the answers all the time. We're moving away from that in a really beautiful way. So I think men these days are able to be a lot more vulnerable, open about not having all the answers or knowing it all. And I think that's why we're actually moving in a positive direction for our health rather than bottling it up and pretending we know everything when we don't.
There's still a lot of blokes that I talk to and they think about a doctor and it scares them still. Even though it's easy now with a whole lot of different options on how to see a doctor. How do we sort of normalise going to see a doctor, take away the white coat, talk about the words, even like wellness that can scare a lot of blokes, and normalise it?
There's some really bang-up statistics that show that compared to women, men are far less likely to see a doctor, follow through with a doctor's advice. And you're right, I think it's because it's for too long been very clinical, stodgy, a bit confronting. So I think kind of having these conversations and, just like we said, framing health and mental health as something that's more part of our everyday. It's part of a man's day-to-day life rather than something that needs to be kind of scary or booked in once a year. We're not talking about prostate exams and all these big freaky things anymore. We're talking about little bits and pieces every day alongside your doctor if you need it, that are going to kind of keep your brain and body ticking away well for years to come. So
as our part as media, a men's media platform and Men's Health, it's bringing that into normality, and we want it to be as common as talking about your gym sets or the sport on the weekend. There's nothing wrong. We all have health issues. We all go through the same thing. We're all human beings. No one functions absolutely perfectly, and no one functions the same. And that's kind of what is beautiful about being a human and being a man is being yourself and bringing your own experience to that.
Challenging masculinity in this country and trying to ask, what are the rules now to be a boy and a man? Those conversations are now happening, as you say, most of them on social media, and they're the combos we've got to keep going with.
And totally, and I get it, it can be overwhelming because there are no rules anymore. So where do you even start? But if you flip that on its head, well, there are no rules anymore.
What an opportunity.
So let's get started,
100%. And I think we're not trying to say that all elements of that older traditional masculinity are wrong or bad. I think the word toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot in recent years, and we're absolutely not trying to push or say that. I think we're trying to say that maybe some of the pressures men have had on them in the past are lifting. And as you say, it's a time now where men are really writing their own script about what masculinity is and who a man is and wants to be. And that's embracing some of the good of the old school masculinity, but it's also taking on some of these new concepts.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gus. Appreciate it.